Our family ride history, drew a red line to his street. The email looked like a receipt pretending to be a calendar. Your family profile, monthly ride summary, Uber announced, as if we were the kind of people who needed a scrapbook of going places. Under the greeting, a tidy heat map in forgiving colors: green for groceries, yellow for friends, red for frequent. The red ribbon cut across the city like a habit, starting near our building, jogging past Dash's bar, hooking hard toward a quiet street I don't visit. The label on that end was practical to the point of cruelty: Bodanivska 19, drop off after midnight 6 times. Ride requester, Myra. Passengers, 2. I was on my lunch break, a paper plate making optimistic promises to a bad slice. I expanded the map. The ride sat stacked like proof someone kept careful minutes on a sin. Time stamps, car models, tips I admired against my will because I'm the kind of man who notices whether drivers were respected on the way to an error. It was our account, our family profile. I set it up when I got tired of sending cash emojis to a person I share rent and skin with. The system had been proud to be helpful. Invite your loved ones to ride with your benefits. I had invited her. I had given her my discounts, my safety, my ability to get home without rehearsing local geography. I had not planned to sponsor cartography. I called her. The hum of the office swallowed some of my voice and none of my intent. "We're funding a tradition," I said, and I didn't bother with hello. She didn't pretend confusion. "You open the monthly," she said, not a question. "I found a red line," I said. I followed it with my finger like a child learning to read. Silence lived between us for a breath that stretched. Then, "Come home," she said. "We don't have this conversation on a map." I walked instead of riding. The city tried on a gentle breeze for the first time in weeks, the sort of air that makes strangers forgive each other for being on the same sidewalk. Our building had the honest, tired smell of proper laundry, and the boiled potatoes somebody's grandmother insists will fix history. The elevator's mirror tried to be helpful. It's terrible at that. She was in the kitchen with sleeves pushed to her elbows, wrist bones behaving like punctuation. 2 glasses on the counter sweated in a way that tried very hard not to be metaphor. The basil performed its tyrannies. She looked up and did something I married her for. She kept her eyes on me even though they had opinions. "You gave me a family plan," she said. "I used it." "I told our account I live with you," I said. It believed me. It also believes you go to Bodanivska 19 with someone it didn't need to know. 6 times. Uber is sentimental. It draws our mistakes in the color it likes for love. She dragged a fingertip across the counter like she was rehearsing forgiveness on a horizontal instrument. "I could say work," she offered, rolling the word in her mouth like a coin. "You could," I said, "and I could admire your commitment to the old stories. Or we could skip it and be adults who admit their mouths don't need practice lying." She put her palm flat on the counter and slid it toward me. The gesture was small and miraculous, like open doors usually are. "Roman lives there," she said. Or lived. Or wanted me to know where he keeps his teaspoons. I don't want to say lived about him anymore. There are men you hate on principle, and there are men you hate for architecture. Roman builds spaces for people who need their lives to look true in photos. He is very good at his job. I am very good at mine, which is moving pallets and promises without breaking too much or needing to be seen doing it. "You took rides," I said, "on a plan I made to keep you safe." "I took rides," she said, "on a plan you made to keep me close." We stood in our kitchen with the map in my pocket and the route under our feet. The smart speaker on the shelf, a device that lives for gossip, breathed like a person not invited to a conversation. I turned it off because I am finally learning about witnesses. You could have hidden it, I said. Called taxis none of our money recognizes. I tried once, she said. It felt like buying silence. I wanted a receipt. I wanted the record to exist so I couldn't pretend later I'd been kidnapped by confusing nights. Congratulations, I said. You are a patron of the arts. The app built you a gallery. She exhaled, and some of the bravado left the room with her breath. Do you want me to say I'm sorry here, or do you want to decide what makes staying possible? The question had good bones. I set my phone face down because I know my weaknesses and walked to where she stood. I looked at her and at the lemon on the counter and at my hands, which are competent at almost everything except inventing new answers. Old answers can still work. 21 days, I said, because my courage has a favorite number and it refuses to be less than itself. 3 weeks where the only red lines are from the cutting board. No family rides that don't begin and end with our door. If at the end you still need a map to find heat, I'll buy you the paper kind and you can draw whichever route you want in any color. But you won't be able to say I didn't offer to be a destination. The corner of her mouth tried to be relief and settled for admiration. And what do you bring, she said, eyes not leaving mine, besides rules and your accuracy? Now, I said, I bring now in stupid armloads. I bring hands before sentences. I stop saving desire for nights that qualify as cinematic. I stop treating competence like foreplay's enemy. Her throat softened around a laugh. Do you want me now? She asked, not coy, not bargaining. A check-in of a different kind. Yes, I said, and something in the air did the right thing. We kissed in the space between the counter and the sink, the boring square where life hopes to be ignored. Her fingers found the back of my neck, a selfish grip that I wish on my enemies. I pressed my palm to the small of her back and addressed my hand still knows by heart. It wasn't acrobatic, it was specific. If you were filming it for an audience, you would fail to capture what mouths confess when they stop auditioning. We moved slowly for reasons that make more sense to bodies than to writing. The basil watched. The bad lamp did its old work of making us into a shade of people we can stand. When we came up for air, she pressed her forehead to mine and stayed there, like decent punctuation. After, errands still needed doing. We did some and pretended to forgive the ones we didn't. She took the kitchen scissors to parsley with a concentration that should be hired for more important things. I put my hand on her waist while she cooked and didn't move it when the stove tried to make me believe heat is a job best outsourced. We were procedural because I am. She taped the new rules to the inside of our skulls. No red dots that aren't apples at home. No performance before touch. No saying later unless we can point to a clock. If jealousy knocks, it carries a bag. Day 1, I failed and corrected. She sent now from the elevator, a photo of her face with no adjectives, and my thumbs wrote 15 while my mouth said coming. And I let the mouth win. We met in the hallway like thieves with keys. The wall learned our names again. Day 3, Uber attempted to be a friend. We noticed you often travel to Bodenivska. Would you like to save it as home? I flagged the email as spam like it had told me a slur. I opened the app and deleted the family profile. It was mine. I am not a saint. I decided to be a new kind of generous. I added her again and named the profile Us. Day 4, Roman texted a single sentence with that honest cowardice I have started to appreciate. I won't ride on your plan again. She showed me. I nodded like a person acknowledging weather and changed the subject to the price of plums. Day 5. Dasha invited us to a location reveal for a brand that believes people can be rebranded. We're practicing domestic, I texted back, and she replied, "Domestic is very 2025, which is something only a friend who has held your emergencies would be allowed to say." Day 7, I saw Roman at a crosswalk. He looked like a person standing at the border between exiting and emigrating. He did the nod men do when they want to acknowledge an affection without requesting a punch. "Bodanivska has bad parking," he said, a stupid, brilliant sentence. "I'll miss the inconvenience." "Park elsewhere," I said. We didn't handshake because that's not how this movie ends. Day 9, we took a ride together, our first in weeks that wasn't about rescue. The driver talked about football in a tone that made me love the planet again. Myra put her hand on my thigh under her coat. My knee made a gentleman of me. The map on the screen moved in polite squares toward a stupid lake we pretend is in the countryside. At the water, we did nothing people write about, which is to say we did warmth, grammar, and silence, and then ate bad cherries out of a plastic bowl like teenagers. Day 11. We fought about the volume of the TV, which meant we were fighting about whether quiet or distraction gets to be our anesthetic. We kissed mid-argument to prove a point that turned out not to be relevant. We made soup too salty and ate it anyway because that's also love. Day 14. My mother called to ask if we needed anything, and I remembered a time when the things we needed could be carried up 3 flights by a woman who never learned to be impressed with men. Myra took the phone and told her we needed only patience, plums, and electricity. My mother said those were the same thing when you're old. Day 16. The app tried one more trick. "Save places you love," it urged, listing our home and 3 streets I wish I'd never learned. I saved 2 places and renamed the third not ours. Myra saw me type it and kissed me like a signature. Day 19. The company sent me to Lviv for a day with a warehouse that, like all warehouses, has opinions about being taken seriously. I added Myra to the ride. It was a tiny, necessary theater. We did nothing photogenic in a hotel. We kissed under a cheap lamp that did nothing for our faces and everything for our honesty. I sent Dasha a photo of the carpet and she wrote back, "Burn it," which was helpful and metaphorical. Day 21 arrived like Tuesday. She came in with hair slicked by weather and a bag full of small groceries that advertise care. "Do you still want me now?" she asked, standing in the doorway like a hymn. "Always," I said, this time like a maintenance plan, not a magic spell. We didn't perform gratitude at the table. We ate and used our mouths for 2 jobs. The basil tried a coup. The lamp forgave us for being ugly. I walked to the window and looked at a city I have decided to keep, even when it thinks maps are more honest than people. A week later, the family profile summary arrived again. The heat map was cluttered where it should be. Market, pharmacy, our friend's place with the bad couch. Under red, the only spike began and ended at our door. Uber tried to congratulate me. Most frequented, home. I took the phone to Myra and showed her, and we had the decency not to make a religion out of software agreeing with us. We keep the old email in a folder neither of us opens unless we need a scare. I don't delete it because there's a difference between pretending a thing didn't happen and refusing to let it rent space. It sits there like a portrait of a person we are learning to outgrow. When I see the subject line, my chest does the old ache, and then the current kitchen corrects me. The basil is still a tyrant. The floor still remembers our knees. The counter still believes in elbows. She still says, now like an address. I still answer like it belongs to me. If you want a clean principle, one the algorithm can tattoo onto your monthly breakdown, don't give maps more authority than your own mouth. If you want the sloppy, workable one, say now while the water is still hot. Say later when it will make the kiss better. Say always, only when you know how to fix what you break by meaning it. Last night as we were heading to bed, she did a silly thing I now depend on. She opened the Ride app on my phone, pressed her thumb to the screen, and then pressed Where to without typing. The app waited like a dog. She turned the phone around and showed me the empty field. Here, she said, and tossed the phone on the sofa. Then she stood with her back to the hallway and lifted her chin 2 degrees and asked, Now? I said yes, because a red line is still a line and doors still prefer to be closed, while people are busy being home.